Hello, my name is Maximus, and it's tea time. Oh, hello there. You're probably here to listen to a story. Well, my name is Maximus, and today we're going to do something special. We're going to call it story time. I just tell you about some of the experiences that I've had, and hopefully you like it. So today's story we're going to talk about is when I went to Arizona. It was a motorcycle road trip that I took. I want to say around the beginning of June or the end of May. I can't remember the exact dates. It's been a little bit over a year. I decided that I wanted to just go on this little road trip on a motorcycle. With the little research that I've done, I decided I was going to go to Lost Dutchman State Park in Arizona. For all that never been there or heard of it, it's not that far away from Phoenix. It's in Apache Junction in Arizona. It's about a 13-hour ride straight there. Don't quote me on that though. Bit of like mid afternoon traffic, and it started to rain. Now, mind you, it wasn't like crazy rain. It wasn't like raining hard or anything like that. It was just enough to where it was getting the ground wet and just kind of making you uncomfortable, but it wasn't bad. Did it damper my mood a little bit? It did. To avoid the rain while I was riding out, because it was only going to be in the like Dallas Fort Worth area. After that, it was supposed to be just clear skies the rest of the way. So it did kind of bring the morale low just a tad bit when that happened, but it wasn't a problem. Once I got out of Dallas, once I got into like Arlington, it stopped and it was fine. And then again, when I got to about downtown Fort Worth, it started raining again. This one was a little bit heavier, I should say. So, like, if we were to put on a scale of 1 to 10, Dallas was about like a 3. Fort Worth was, I would say, about like a 5. But luckily, same thing. Ran into a little bit of afternoon traffic, but it didn't last very long. And I started heading my way past Fort Worth. And once I got past Fort Worth, it was starting to like open up, and it was just starting to be open country. And then that's really when like that kind of the fun began, because I didn't know this, but another series of storm cells were forming further west. And when I got to Sweetwater, the funny thing or cool thing about it is that it's just like a bunch of windmills all over the place, especially when you're going in at nighttime. You can just see blinking red lights everywhere, and that's just from all the windmills that are in that area. But to go back to where I was going with this, so once I entered Sweetwater, I stopped to get gas, and I noticed once I was getting closer to like the sign that says welcome to Sweetwater, I noticed that the temperature was dropping. And mind you, that day I would say was in like the low 90s. But when I got to Sweetwater, I think it dropped to about 58 or somewhere around there. It was cold, especially from going from 90 to 50 or in the low 60s. It was cold. It was noticeably cold. As I was filling up at this gas station, I noticed that this really large, like black cloud was coming past us. I just sat there and waited, and I looked at my phone to see what the weather app was saying, and it said that like I'm literally smack dab in the middle of another storm cell. So I decided that I was going to wait this one out. I didn't want to get caught in the rain, especially since it's cold out. I didn't want to be uncomfortable while I was riding in the highway. Luckily, I did, because the rain came down so hard that everybody else that was in the area that was filling up on gas decided to do the same thing I was doing, is and wait under the little like cover in the gas station. And it didn't last very long. I want to say it will last about 20 to 30 minutes. I was already questioning it at this point. I was like, how many more times am I going to have to run into rain on this trip? And it's only the first day, and it's only been like maybe a couple hours into this trip. And so while this was happening, it started to hail. The hail wasn't big. It was like little tiny like pebbles, but I could hear the like tinking noise hitting off of like cars and like the roof of the building and such. And so of course, like again, I was thinking to myself, I was like, damn it, I don't want to go through this again. But I waited another 20 minutes or so, and then finally it stopped. I waited for the cars to kind of clear out so I can get back onto the highway because there was a considerable amount of cars at this point parking under this little park, like under this gas station. Once it was over with, I started heading back onto Interstate 20 going west, and this is where the fun began. I was almost to Odessa. I stopped on the interstate, and there was traffic, and so I was thinking to myself, like, oh, there might have been an accident or something because we're not moving. We haven't moved for like 2 or 3 minutes since I stopped. We haven't even inched forward or anything. As this was happening, like the floodgates just opened. It started pouring down rain so hard that like from the other times that like it rained before, like it was like a like a 3, then it became like a 4 or 5. Like this one was a straight up 10. It was coming straight down, and it was uncomfortable. And at some point, and I'm not exaggerating on this one, it was about this size hail coming down, because I know, because the first one hit me was on my shoulder, and I felt that one really good. And so I was like, perfect. At that point, it like all bets are off. It started hailing really bad. I had like a split second decision. I decided to go onto the shoulder and started going forward. And there was a bridge in front of us, and so I decided I was gonna go under that bridge and wait it out. Well, I wasn't the only one that thought that. There was a line of cars that were basically blocking that area just so they can get shelter too. And I'm thinking that's what caused the traffic in the first place, because I guess either they knew and they were going to wait under here because there's nothing else for like a good while, or at least from where you could see. But I tried to sneak in there, but they just weren't having it. None of the people there were allowing me to get past them. So I was just like, shit, all right, I'm gonna have to keep going forward. So I honked my horn, and one of the cars finally kind of inched away so I can get past them, but it wasn't enough to where I could get covered because it was still hailing at one part of it. So I decided to keep on going. And so I went maybe a couple of miles still, driving as slow as I can too, because it's raining so hard, and it's still hailing too. And so I kept going. As I was going, I noticed that on the access road on the sides was completely flooded. When I saw cars passing through them, like I want to say like about halfway up the tire, it was water. And so I was thinking to myself, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to ride on the access road. Like when I take my exit, I just got to hope that road is at least a little bit up higher than what these, like where the road is itself, or that there's actual drainage systems, because I mean there's nothing there. It's just a road. They built little ditches on there, but the ditches were already full of water at that point. So like at that point, there's nowhere else for the water to go. Kept riding, and I want to say like an upcoming exit, I saw a bunch of buildings that were starting to form up, and so I was like, okay, maybe there's somewhere I can find shelter underneath one of the buildings. So I took the exit. Luckily, it was a little bit higher in the elevation where it wasn't flooded, and so I got a chance to where I could get on the access road and start taking that road. But anywhere that I saw, there was already cars underneath there because they all were thinking the same thing I was thinking. And so there was nowhere to like park my bike under. As I was going a little bit further inward, I saw that there was a overpass. And so I saw a bunch of cars under there. And I thought to myself, oh, this will be a perfect spot to stop in. So I was starting to turn in, and I guess a few of the people saw me that I was trying to go underneath the overpass as well. So they started moving their cars a little bit out of the way, and I started inching my bike forward, and I got inside this little like convoy of people. And when I parked when I got a little nice spot, I parked my bike, and I started kind of going through my bags because I wanted to see what all was wet. Even though I didn't bring much with me, like all I had were clothes, MREs, because that was what I was going to use for food, and just like my camping essentials, not really many electronics. I had my phone in a Ziploc bag in the little like bag that I had on the handlebars, because I had a feeling it was going to rain a little bit more, so that's why I was like, let me just make sure that my phone doesn't get wet. Everything was pretty much soaking wet when I looked in there, by the way. All my clothes were wet, everything else was wet, so I was like, it is what it is. Nothing much I could do about it. Well, while this was happening, it was still raining pretty hard out there. I just grabbed my camping chair, and I just set up on the little like walkway underneath this bridge, and I just waited out the storm. The funny thing was, when this was happening, I was contemplating whether or not I should continue forward, because this is now like the fourth storm that I hit. And my mom started to text me to kind of see what was going on, because she was saying she was worried about it. I was just looking at my phone like, yeah, I'm okay. There's nothing more I could do at that point, so I just waited the storm out. It was still cold, mind you. It was still in that high 50s, low 60s range. But I want to say about 45 minutes to an hour passed until finally the storm let up, and I waited for a lot of the cars to clear out. So while I was waiting and waiting for the cars to leave, at some point a truck came from the opposite end coming inward, and he pulled right next to where I was parked, and I just saw this like huge hole in his windshield. And I'm like, brother, what happened? And he just came out and was just looking at me like he was so defeated. He was like, yeah, man, I was just riding on the interstate and this like huge ass hail just hit right into it and smack dab hit the windshield. And I was like, that sucks. He was asking me where I was going, and I was like, oh, I'm heading west on 20. And he was like, don't go that way. He was telling me that a little bit further down the interstate, the road was flooded. It kind of divots down, and so that whole area was flooded. And police are there, like escort or like redirecting traffic to go on the service road. Even though the service road was flooded too, it didn't really matter. And I asked him, I was like, "Well, do you know this area? Like, is there anywhere else I could go?" And he was like, "Yeah, if you take this road going towards the train tracks, and take that road going up west, you can bypass all of that." And I was like, oh, okay, cool, I appreciate it. After I waited a little bit while, made sure the water was draining and everything, the roads kind of like cleared up with the vehicles, because I'm sure there was just clusters of cars passing by. So I wanted to kind of clear all that out because I didn't want to ride the speed limit. I wanted to go a little bit below it because motorcycle and rain don't go together. I took his directions and I got to the train tracks, took a left, and I started going down that road. I want to say like 10 minutes down going down this road, I noticed that there was like two or three cars ahead of me that stopped, and then on the opposite side of the road going this way, because it was a one-lane road going both ways, I noticed that the cars on the other side also stopped. And when I got closer, there was a Toyota Corolla trying to cross the water, and it was the same thing. Like it was at least where the grill was, it was like underneath the water, or like at least the lip of the grill. Like it wasn't that high up. And I was like, shoot, I'm not going to be able to cross that at all. So I looked around, pulled over to the shoulder to see if I can find another route. And unfortunately, there was no other road going that way. Maybe the interstate cleared out. Maybe the water's draining out, and this is where the water's coming from. I made the decision to go back around. And so I got back onto the road and went onto the interstate. Unfortunately, it was still closed. I saw the little police like barricade on the highway, and they were redirecting traffic. And so I was like, shit. I was like, all right, well, access road doesn't look too bad. Like it is flooded, obviously, but I mean, let me see if I can clear it at least, because I don't want to stop here. I want to keep going. I went, but I was going as slow as I can, making sure that there was no other cars around me to then create that ripple effect. The water was just enough to where it was touching the bottom of the foot pegs on the bike, and I turned around at some point to see if water was going into the tailpipe, and luckily my tailpipe isn't completely open. It actually condenses down to a smaller pipe, and so it was barely touching the water, like it was just underneath it. And so I said, perfect. As long as it's not touching or it's not able to get water in there, I'm fine. I'm groovy. So I kept going. And it wasn't that far. Like the road, like the access road wasn't that long until it started like clearing out the water. I'm telling you, once I got past that point, I got back onto the interstate and nothing else happened. Besides, like, the occasional 18-wheeler not seeing me and swerving into my lane, or they weren't paying attention and they almost lost control. I wish I really had like a camcorder, a dash cam on me or something to catch that. Like after all the things I experienced today, it cannot get any worse. Finally, I got to my first campsite, which is Monahan Sandy Hills, which is just a little bit past Odessa. And it's a really beautiful place over there, by the way. I forgot to mention this. I do have pictures of this trip, and so I will like clip it into the video so it gives you a more visual aid. It was really beautiful. I was awestruck when I got there because it's like it's just sand everywhere, like just sand dunes and everything. So it was really beautiful. And the sun was just setting about the time when I got there. I got to my campsite, started unpacking, and I made the decision to grab all of my clothes out of my bag and like just throw them out. Because there was like a little picnic table in each campsite, and so I just put all my clothes on this picnic table just so it could dry out the next day, because I was like, everything is completely drenched. I did an inventory, and my medication that I brought with me one of them was completely ruined. The water got into it, and it just became like a paste. But the other one was completely intact, which was awesome. But yeah, so I laid all my clothes out, laid everything out to dry. I pitched my tent and everything. At the point, I was like, let me explore a little bit. So I took a little pictures of like the area that I was around, and then afterwards, I was like, it's starting to get late. Let me make some food. And I just thought to myself, I was like, let me take a picture of myself before I eat because I'm curious because I know I'm gonna laugh at this picture when I look back on it because I know like even though I'm smiling, I'm completely defeated. Like I just went through hell today. I went through like multiple like thunderstorm, rainstorms, like the hail that I ran into in Odessa, like the freezing temperatures that I had to deal with. Like it was an interesting first day. Like I felt like there was a force trying to like stop me from going further into this trip, but I was determined. I was like, no, I'm going. I'm gonna make it. Took my picture and I ate my food and everything, and I decided I was gonna go to bed. So it was so nice outside that I left the door on the tent open. As I was just laying on my cot, I noticed I saw lightning ahead, like in the distance. I was like, why? I looked out and I saw the storm, but it was like miles away, and it was like clear around me, and the moon was sort of out, so I had some light, and from what it looked like, the storm was a good while, like good miles away. So I wasn't worried, but I kept an eye on it. I had my tent ready. I had to like put all my clothes back into my bag, but the only question was where I was going to put this big duffel bag that I had. It wasn't going to fit in the tent. Like the tent is so like it's small. Like only I can fit in it, and that's it. I'm watching the storm pass by, but I'm so exhausted that I fell asleep. And when I woke up the next morning, I like looked out and I was like, no, it's I guess the storm never hit. Luckily enough, why not? After the day I had the yesterday, I wasn't going to be surprised if another storm hit me while I was trying to sleep. But luckily it didn't. And it was a beautiful morning over there too. I know I took some good pictures, so I'm gonna make sure to clip it into the video. That was day one of the trip, and I'll go to my next destination and we'll stop there. I left that campsite and I got back onto the interstate and started heading out more further west. And at this point, it was an uneventful day, honestly. It was really nice watching the sunrise. Nothing really happened on the road. Besides me, there was just 18 wheelers on the road, so that was it. Hardly any cars were passing by. So I had that comfortability of just not having to worry about vehicles seeing me or traffic or anything along those lines. But for anybody that's ever gone out west that way, the terrain changes. I want to say past Abilene, if I remember right. And it's really beautiful, especially like for people that live in the Dallas Fort Worth area where they're not used to that kind of scenery. Because here it's just grass. Like there's not really much to look at. Like it's just flat plains. So visually it was nice to look at because it was completely different than what you're used to. You're starting to see that kind of like desert kind of vibe to it, and so it was beautiful going out there. And like from the like far distances you could see like an occasional like small mountain or something like that, which was I was really excited about because that's just not something I see on a usual basis. And so yeah, I kept going forward and forward. And also another thing is for people that haven't driven out west, it's a big state. It took almost, I feel like a good majority of the trip was just to get out of Texas. I know me and my uncle talked about this, but you feel like you've been driving for hours and hours and hours, and then you be like, "Oh no, I'm still in Texas. I haven't even left yet." And the funny thing is, there's just like nothing once you get like after I want to say Odessa. It's just small towns from there. Like you would close your eyes and you're already past that town. That's how small these places are. There was like a little hill, like there was this like little like like a tall like a little dirt hill that they made like a wall almost, and you go past that hill and that's El Paso. Like you just entered El Paso, and it's really beautiful over there. Like to me, like it's my first time seeing El Paso. I know a lot of people like shit on El Paso, but like I thought it was cool. Like it's a lot better looking than some of the cities that I've always seen because like how it's built, it's almost like on this valley. And so when you're going on the interstate, like below you to your left, you see all these buildings just slowly going down, and then to your right, it's going up, and you just see these buildings built like on the side of this, like on this hill or mountain, whatever you want to call it. I thought that was really beautiful. But I stopped there because that was like the first major town that I've seen. And so I went to like, there was a Walmart right off the interstate. I stopped there and I just picked up some drinks because like I didn't want to pick up anything perishable or anything like that. I just wanted like a soda or something because I've just been drinking water this entire time. I just needed a pick me up essentially. I didn't realize this until afterwards. That I like noticed when I walked into the Walmart, there was like armed security guards all over the place. And I'm not talking about like your mall cop. Like I'm talking about like El Paso Police Department that are strapped with like automatic weapons. And thinking to myself, what's going on here? Like, I've been to some ghetto Walmarts before, but like I've never seen like to this extreme. Well, come to find out that that was the same Walmart that had the shooting a few years back. So I was like, oh, damn, okay. So grabbed my stuff left, filled up on gas, started heading out. And once I got out of El Paso, now I'm truly in the middle of nowhere. 300-mile span of nothing. There's just gas stations littered like I think 150 miles or something spaced together. And you're probably thinking to yourself, how do I know it's like that far apart? It's because the motorcycle takes about like 150 to 175 miles for every fill up. Every time I stopped, I had to fill up because I didn't know when the next gas station was going to be. And I did bring a gas can with me for an emergency just in case if I were to like need something to like go a little bit further. So I did bring one with me, but it was truly middle of nowhere. Beautiful scenery, mind you, but middle of nowhere. But yeah, I crossed the New Mexico border. I took some pictures at the travel center and I kept going forward. And at this point, it was starting to be a good considerable amount of mountains, and so I was really excited about that. It was like my first time seeing it in the like Texas area or like the U.S. area, and so I was really excited about that. So I took a lot of pictures, and I'll make sure to clip those in. Yeah, I got to Las Cruces, New Mexico. That was my next stop, my campsite wise. I got there. I got to my campsite, and it's really beautiful over there too. How they had it situated was the campsite had this little like fire pit slash like little seating area at the very corner of it, like away from the like the RV stations and such, and you can like see like this beautiful mountain range from the distance. And so I was kind of just awestruck. I was just sitting there, just enjoying like the sun setting, just like looking at that scenery. So yeah, same thing. I unpacked my things. I set up for the day or set up for the night, had my food, and then and I'm gonna stop there. Thank you for joining story time, and I'll see you later.